often do you talk about the way something smells when you open it in a review? Before I get started, I do want to say thank you to everybody that has shown up to the channel and started watching all this stuff, and it really means a lot to me. So thanks for coming along for the ride. Now, today we're jumping into our power loader from Aliens. Now, this is a NECA product. I've done a couple videos around Super 7's Robin Hood figures, but this is NECA. And you may already be familiar with both brands, or maybe you really just have been following along with Super 7, but NECA, listen, they know what they're doing, and their price points are usually great. I don't know what the retail of this was, so I'll put it right here. I had to buy it third party because I'm really late to the game. I believe this thing came out in like 2016, and I got it in 2022. So that's pretty late, but I'm also a new collector. When we do reviews on this channel, we look at an overview of the box and everything that's inside of it. Then we look at details, articulation, and posing. And then we round it all off with a nice overall rating. Let's get into it. So here we are, we got a nice shot of the product in this kind of environment they built. There's Ripley in the power loader, which she does obviously not come with this. Neither does this block of metal, I don't believe. On the back here, does this thing light up? And I don't even know it, because that looks pretty sweet. So there's a little bit of information about the power loader, but it's a deluxe vehicle, 11 inches tall, and features more than 30 points of articulation, including fully articulated arms and legs, over 20 wires and hoses, working pistons, and exceptional detail. So it doesn't say anything about lighting. So this is just good job on the photographer, I guess, huh? Here's another shot of the power loader on this side. Now on the top of the box, what do we have here? We've got her fighting the Queen, which is in this box. And obviously this box has been around for a while, so there's like a few things of like the color coming off, but it's fine. I'm not really an in-box collector. I just happen to have this still in box. And then on the bottom, we have the same stuff we always get to see, which is what I love about NECA's packaging is just giving the call outs to everybody involved. You gotta do this. Photographer, set design, I mean, those two really did a lot of work here on this. Look at that. Sell me that stuff. I want a nice background. But you know what? I've talked too much. Let's open this thing up and get everything out. We're tired of looking at the box on the outside. We're not in-box collectors here, so let's get into it. Instantly, I can see just an incredible level of detail in the paint. The packaging, the bubble, plastic, whatever, is two pieces sandwiched in there together, and you do get extra hands to help the Ripley figure work with this thing, because she doesn't by default have these kind of gripping hands that would fit the pieces inside the power loader. And then I don't know what these harpoon looking spike things are for. Oh, okay. So those, they just go up on top here. Cool. It's very easy to get into, which I'm very grateful for. One thing I hate about NECA traditionally is how many like plastic straps are holding things into the packaging, but this, that's it. And then you get this little pad in there to help protect the back of it, which very nice job on the packaging. Thank you all for taking care of this. So not a lot to talk about as far as an overview goes, because what, we have very little things to look at. We have words that are hard for my mouth. Okay, it's got the smell of like a pool inflatable. Very much plastic. It's very interesting. The amount of stink coming off this is pretty incredible. Not often do you talk about the way something smells when you open it in a review, but if you want to get an idea of what this is like, then go get your inflatable pool alligators or whatever, and then huff it, because that's exactly what's going on here. That's so strange to me. All right, so obviously it's kind of hunched over a little bit to fit into this plastic. With this is opens, okay. A lot going on here. A lot of wires and stuff, hoses, I guess you would say. And this red and blue would imply that there's like real battery powered things in here, but I don't think that's the case, because where would even the batteries go? It's just using real world stuff instead of painting things, so that's cool. I mean, whatever, it looks great, but based on my history of toys and really any electronics, you kind of default that there's going to be a battery on the other end of this thing. It's just not the case. As far as an overview, I mean, it's kind of messy back here. You need to hire like a good IT guy to zip tie these things up and make it look nice and neat. This guy obviously doesn't get paid enough to care about that. Overview, yeah, we got the spikes that are gonna go on top of this thing. We got the alternate hands. That's it. So let's just jump into details. But before we do, let's plug in these spikes, whatever, rods, whatever you want to call them. Antennas. They go in pretty easily. At first, this one kind of was a little tighter than this side, but it's easy. It's fine. It's simple. So jumping into details, it's really just coming down to like great paintwork, right? I mean, the sculpting, of course, is there, which if you're new to NECA, sculpting is never a problem for them. That's like the one thing that they've definitely guaranteed got going on. So from what we can see here, it's just got this finish on it that makes it look like old metal that's been just covered in grease and stuff from usage over the years. So you got actual like metal pins right here to help these clamps slide up and down, which is nice. But the hoses look good. They're pretty simple as far as the connections going in there. Looks like that would be pretty delicate because it goes down in size as it connects. So yeah, when you're working back here, I would be very delicate with all of those because eventually I think you're gonna get one that just pops out of place and you're gonna have to glue it back in. So the arms have all functioning pistons or hydraulics, whatever. So all of the parts that are connected, you know, are responding to what you're doing here, which is nice. Even this piece for the elbow of the machine has another hydraulic that is functioning and responding to your input. We gotta keep getting into details here. So be careful when opening it.
Be careful when opening it.
It's a good thing those just pop out because that is gonna knock these things off, which is weird. How does she get in it without these things? So just for the sake of it, let's pop those things back off and jump into the details here. I would love to have a little LED in there that you could turn on that would flash. I wonder if some people have modified these things, taken it apart, glue it back together. But that definitely has the space in the room to get a little LED in there. But yeah, it's like, what else is there to say when it comes to NECA, man? Like their paint work, the sculpt work, it's always just top level. Now we have this harness and I'm wondering if it comes apart or something, like how do I get her in there? Yep, okay. You always want to be delicate with this stuff because you never really know what is supposed to come apart and what is supposed to stay together. And then if you break something, you feel really bad about it. But we have all of these pieces. This even slides up and down. And then you can potentially break it because you're an idiot. Really a fan of this thing. And I guess I could talk about it forever, but it's because I'm an Aliens fan. All right, so let's get out of the details because it's just kind of the same thing over and over, I think, and if I go too long, it'd probably be a little boring. So let's get into articulation. So if we start at the top, obviously this thing opens, you just need to remove those antenna or spikes or whatever you want to call them because it just gets in the way. So remove those, open it up. Anything else move here? Yeah, so you got the piece that ends up being the flamethrower, can rotate. Well, not really a flamethrower, but whatever. So yeah, so that spins all the way around wherever you would need it. Opens, closes, the belts come undone so you can get Ripley in there or whoever you want. And the arms are gonna be somewhat limited because of all these hoses, I would think, plus the hydraulics on the back. So let's see how far up we can get this thing. Oh, there we go. I'm just saying, it's not as delicate as Super 7, but this stuff you always want to be careful with because these things are expensive now, and if you break something, you're gonna just hate yourself. But so there we go. Takes a little bit of work. It looks like it spins a little bit, but so full rotation of the arm starts back here and then goes all the way up to that, which is not bad at all. Then you have the elbow section, which let's see what we can do out of that. It's on a ratchet, it feels. Be careful with these hoses. Mine just got a little cut on the elbow. So you got a ratchet going on in here. And then of course the hydraulic on the back side of the arm kind of gives you an idea how far you can go with it. But look at that. So that's actually, for something so big and so many working pieces, good God, great work to the sculptors and everybody that built this thing, because yeah, that's a lot of stuff going on. You got this shoulder rotation or hinge point, whatever you want to call it. So that works pretty well. It looks kind of small. Look at that. So it is a smaller section, and I would be careful obviously with this whole thing in general, but yeah, it's got some great motion for something that is built this way. You really wouldn't expect. If you're familiar with the RoboCop figure, he has like no articulation. This thing has blown it away, especially for so many working parts. Let's see, you can rotate that thing. Obviously you want to be careful with the hoses, don't get it too tight. And then working these things, you just gotta kind of wiggle them a little bit to get them to move freely, but then they seem to kind of get a nice tight lock. I think some of them, like, yeah, eventually can kind of get a little loose. What else can we look at for articulation? We got the legs, of course, which are gonna be on little ball joints. So you got these kind of hinge and rotation. You can give some nice front kicks, some really nice backward movement. But yeah, so you wouldn't really do splits with this thing, so that's good enough for me. We get some knee articulation. Again, you can kind of follow along with the hydraulics here and see how much room you've got. Just be careful with it. I think that might be it. So this is only about halfway as much on the hydraulic. Again, it might just be kind of tight on mine, but I don't need it to go any more than that, so I don't want to force it. Then you got this foot, which is got a couple ratchets, you can hear that. So there's like 3 spots. And again, working hydraulics, which is really nice. Just be careful. Just be careful if you end up going and getting one of these things or finally unboxing one that you've had on the shelf forever. Just be careful. Look at that. It starts to flex a little bit if you push too hard. So don't go crazy with this. Find a good pose and leave it there. But we like our figures to pose, right? If we didn't want our figures to pose, we would buy statues. We're not buying statues. So anybody that has a problem with me complaining about articulation on things like Super 7, listen, we like our figures to go into unique poses, not just stand there. Otherwise, I would just buy a statue. All right, so let's get Ripley and deal with her in this thing. Got her back here on the shelf. So this is Ripley that comes by herself, not with Newt, which is in that box. So yes, I do have multiple Ripleys, don't worry about it. But the one that comes with Newt is the only one to get with the 2-pack. The paint work, I don't know if you can see this. Actually, let me use this other camera real quick. There's a couple versions of Ripley, and you get different head sculpts, if you can see that. The one that's in the box has her mouth open, you can kind of see her teeth there. And it does look a little bit better than this one. It's also got like a gloss finish to look like, you know, she's sweating and stuff down in that lower area going after the queen. And then the paint work is a little bit different, so she looks a little dirtier than this one. This one has some like weird, like, that doesn't look good. That's just like a weird spot. It doesn't look like a stain or something or dirt. They did do a better job on that one. There's some more yellow and stuff going on in the shirt than on this one, but yeah. So anyway, I've got a second Ripley. Don't worry about it. We're just living our best life here, playing with toys. Adults. We're playing with toys. Shut up. So we got Ripley. We don't need this gun, which was kind of a pain to get in that position because her hands, these older NECA joint hands, are no good. But those hands are coming off anyway, so let's take those off to put her power loader hands in place. All right, so we've got our Ripley, which we're gonna put into this power loader, but we gotta get everything else out of the way. All right, so once you get Ripley in there, your articulation is gonna be cut down drastically, not only by the slider here and all of that, but she has limited movement. This thing technically has better range and articulation than she does. The biggest issue is like lining up this hand. I can't get these two pieces to line up as well as I can over here. So I just kind of have to like get it in a position and fake it, I guess, or whatever. So articulation goes way down with her inside of it, but that's okay. I guess again, this thing had way more articulation than I expected, so I don't know what poses I would really do that are gonna be totally limited by her. And then you kind of have to have a queen in play to really see. Oh, those hands just come right apart. So yeah, you really kind of have to work everything into place and then connect her wrists, which is pretty annoying. But as a product itself with no figure, this thing is incredible. So anyway, articulation goes down with the character inside, but that brings us to posing. All right, so there we are with the Power Loader and Ripley specifically being inside of it, which is not technically part of the review. She's just there to make this thing make sense. The Power Loader itself is super, super cool. Huge fan. I think it's gorgeous. It really works well. All of the detail pieces, break, don't break. All of the details and everything. There's not much I would change about this. It's by itself really just a perfect item. I think adding a light to that is the only thing I could have thought about changing, but it's not an option, unfortunately. I would love to have it. It's not an option. Probably worth pointing out that this locker I got was just something I bought online. It's super simple, it's cheap. I got it on Mercari from a seller. It's really basic metal and stuff. And the only thing is that, like, on the inside, there's one of these, which I thought was really cool, right? So that's nice that that's included. So when it comes to rating the Power Loader details, it's gonna be a 5 out of 5. This thing is gorgeous. There's nothing else I would have done aside from having a light on the top of it. When it comes to articulation, there's some limitations, but out of what that is, I can't think of how you would improve the articulation. So it's not like RoboCop, when I reviewed him, knowing he's RoboCop and he has limitations, it still wasn't good. It could have been better because RoboCop doesn't even meet the movie expectations of articulations. But this thing is exceeding those, so I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5 on articulation. However, when you put Ripley in it, or anybody, your articulation drastically goes down. So maybe a 4 out of 5 is a better, more accurate way to rate this thing. But when it comes to posing, there are limitations for sure. I mean, obviously, once you have a character in there, you're kind of stuck. It's not a character itself, it is an icon, but doing dynamic poses with this thing, you can go way beyond what you can do with somebody in there because they are gonna limit the articulation. But aside from, you know, the requirements of other figures and stuff, the posing, I'll give it a 3 out of 5 because you can't really do much by itself. You do need other stuff to make sense with this figure. So yeah, I think it's the fair way to do it, which means those are the scores. That's the overall rating. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the Power Loader. Is this something that you do have at home? Have you opened it already? Or are you gonna go online and try to find this thing third party? Is it worth the price? Yes. Is it worth retail price? Definitely, which was this. Is it worth what I paid for? I think so, because it was only this. And that was not much more over retail price, but when it comes to paying the third party, and if you're gonna pick one up, if you don't already have one, then just, you know, have all of that retail price in mind and then have what you're willing to pay. And then just look for the good deals. I saw plenty that were way overpriced compared to what I actually paid for it. Now, was this thing worth more than what I paid? Probably, based on all the other ones being listed. But that just means be patient and find the one you want. But let me know down in the comments if you agree with the rating and if you are in love with this thing as much as I am. And if you enjoyed this review, then check out this one of Ripley, the 40th anniversary in her compression suit from the first Alien film. And about halfway through, I'm an idiot. So that's something to look forward to. We'll see you next time.